Excellent. So the webinar today is called The Return to a Creative Life, and I'm Felicity O'Connor. We're going to chat today about this most extraordinary book and process called The Artist's Way, and it's a book written by a woman called Julia Cameron, and it was written about 20 years ago, believe it or not. Hi, Mirren. Excellent you could join us. And from Nowra. Oh, fantastic. Okay. And Claire, I know, is in Queensland. And Linda's joined us from Yangabara. Okay. I don't know where that is, Linda. Sounds interesting. Okay. Oh, Davey Daines is our techie guru in the background here, guys. So if you do have any techie problems, just type in the chat box and Dave will sort it out for you. So he's just giving you some instructions there. So Linda, far north Queensland, Atherton Tableland, you're kidding. That's fantastic. Oh my God, that's so far from me. I'm on the eastern seaboard. I'm on the central coast, New South Wales, in a beautiful little spot called Avoca Beach. I just love where I live and I love my community and my studios at home. So that's all pretty nice for me, but very exciting to get people from around the country. And I know there's people from overseas that are going to not be able to attend right now because of the time difference, but they're going to get the recording straight afterwards, courtesy of Davey Daines. So that's really exciting to have you join us. If you're listening in from overseas, brilliant to have you along. So we're going to work through some of the principles of the book, The Artist's Way, because that's the program that I'm actually running online. I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. But I'm hoping that just out of the experience today, you're going to pick up a couple little tips that you can take away and work with right now. So welcome, and let's get rolling. As I said, I'm in Avoca Beach on the New South Wales Central Coast, and I'm a practicing artist. I'm a painter, abstract art, and I'm also a psychologist. So I've got kind of a mixture of skills which now I bring to support, coach, mentor other artists, which is an absolute joy for me, actually. Brilliant. But we're not here to talk about me. We're here to find out and talk about you. So I'm assuming that you are probably a practicing artist. You might not be a painter, you might be a sculptor, photographer, playwright, all sorts of creative people might be joining us in the discussion. So I've just sort of got a bit of a bias, I guess. So that's why that slide right there is about some people doing some drawings in a life class. So you might be here because of all sorts of things, I guess. It could be that you're feeling a bit blocked creatively, you're looking for a way forward, you could be struggling with some limiting beliefs, which is one of the things that I'm particularly interested in helping people clear up. You might be an emerging artist, you might be an established artist, whatever level you might be on, we're always going to have blocks that we need to push through to get to the next level. You might have heard that saying, next level is a new level, new devil. And I've just found that to be absolutely true. So no matter where you are in your creative life and your creative career, you're probably going to have things that you need to challenge, to move through, to improve and increase either your productivity or your profile or your success or your sales or whatever it is that you're doing. Okay, so what else? Let's have a look. Where are we going to next? So there we are. There's a little quote that says, to live a creative life, we must lose our fear of being wrong. And again, that's one of the things that I hear and challenge in a lot of the artists I work with, is a lot of these limiting beliefs about being wrong. So we're going to tackle some of that today, and we're going to certainly work through that when I run the 12-week course online that follows through the 12 chapters of the Artist's Way book. That's the stuff that we're often dealing with when we're working with unblocking our creative process. So you might have read this book before, and you might have remembered how life-changing it actually was. It certainly has been for me. And you might feel, yeah, I knew that sort of 10, 15 years ago, and it feels like it's the right time to reconnect. It's just through a matter of synchronicity, via my pathway again. Maybe you've seen some of my posts on it. Maybe it's been a book that's been hanging around for a while and you've just re-picked it up, or someone's mentioned it to you again, and you're feeling like it's the right time to reconnect. Maybe you started it back then, you never finished it, and that's certainly something I've heard a lot of artists mention. No shame in that. I'll tell you, I've done that with thousands of books, I'm sure. So if that's the case, it's not that you didn't enjoy it. Maybe you just didn't get back to finishing it. Maybe you started some of the tasks and didn't complete them and then sort of gave up on the process. So maybe you've never done the exercises, maybe you've never heard of the book, but you feel that that's resonating for you at the moment. And so you could be any of those possibilities, and welcome along if you are. So it's important to understand that being a creative person, you need to be self-expressed. You know, we are really truly ourselves when we're being spontaneous. And when you are able to allow yourself to be spontaneous, you feel a surge of energy. I'm sure you would agree. And you often get a sense of being connected more wholeheartedly to who you really are. You're self-expressing yourself. And being a blocked creative means that you're not using your creativity to the full. And I think sometimes for a lot of us, we have a sense there's a whole lot more creativity within us than we're actually allowing to happen. I'm just going to read a line from the book, actually, from The Artist's Way, which says, "Many of us wish we were more creative. Many of us sense we are more creative, but unable to effectively tap that creativity. Our dreams elude us. Our lives feel somehow flat. Often we have great ideas, wonderful dreams, but are unable to actualise them for ourselves." So that's just reading directly from the book, and I'm sure if that's resonating, pop into the chat blocks and tell me, because that was certainly my case. I certainly felt there was a lot more creativity within me than I was tapping into. There probably still is. So don't take me as a total expert on this, guys. I am certainly work in progress on this, but this process that Julia Cranman has written about just rang so true to me. Every page I was turning of this book, the first time I read it, was just screaming out as true. It's like she wrote it for me, every page. And since I've been teaching the book and the process to other artists, many people have said the same thing. So she's really hit on something here, which is quite extraordinary. I love the fact that she says judging your creative efforts is artistic abuse. So we can really be our own worst critics, can't we? You know, we can really stop ourselves in our process through a very harsh inner critic. And it seems to me that for some reason artists have this dialed right up to maximum volume. Your inner critic can be screaming at you. And I think if you are a blocked creative, whatever that means for you, then that's probably got a lot to do with that inner critic or your limiting beliefs. So that's super important to know. That, you know, the way Julia Cameron writes about this is so beautiful. She talks about our artists as a child, and that child needs nurturing. That we wouldn't abuse a child. We wouldn't scream at a child. You know, what would we be? We'd be encouraging. You know, we'd be thoughtful about our responses. We'd provide that child with opportunities, wouldn't we? You know, we would do everything to kind of nurture the growth, the physical, the spiritual, the creative growth of that child. And yet when it comes to ourselves, we can absolutely slam ourselves. And there's probably lots of reasons why that's particularly the case for creative people, but it certainly seems very prevalent, which I suppose for me was a combination then of stepping in with the skills that I had as a therapist, as a psychologist, with my own experience of what that inner critic and limiting beliefs has meant in terms of the progress of my creative career, what it's meant to clear those limiting beliefs, unblock my creative flow, you know, and to be sort of able to prove to myself, A, that it can be done, and the incredible benefits that can actually mean. Okay, are you with me so far? Someone type me a little message and say, yes, they're with me. So we're going to cover some of the aspects, the key points, I think, that I'd like to mention and leave with you today. So whether you go on to do the course with me or a one-on-one session, if that feels more appropriate for you, even if you don't do any of that after today, absolutely fine. I will just want to leave you with a couple of key things so that you can feel that you've got good use out of this time together and you can go forward on something. So what I'm going to talk about are these things that the book, the kind of key cornerstones of the book. Something that's called morning pages, and something called artist dates. So for those of you that have read the book and are familiar with the book, you'll know what I'm talking about. For those that haven't, the morning pages are a fascinating part of this process. And when you're in the process, this is the ritual, if you like, that you partake in every day. It's a morning journal, and we're encouraged in the book to do this first thing in the morning, okay? And trust me, it makes a difference if you're doing it first thing or a little bit later in the day. It's really made a difference. I've experimented with that myself. So first thing in the morning, we do 3 pages of journaling, no more, no less. And that journaling is done in a way that you are sort of doing a stream of consciousness. You're not filtering anything. You're not analysing anything particularly. You're just letting your brain do a download. So it may be that you end up finding you're writing about things that seem completely unrelated to your creative process or to your creative work, and that's fine. In fact, it's quite important because you need to be able to just download that stuff, whatever it is. It can be as ugly and nasty and bitchy as it is, right? And I can assure you there's been plenty of my morning pages that haven't been particularly, let's say, polite. So swear words are okay in your morning pages because you're never going to share these with anybody. In fact, you're not even going to go and read them back to yourself. And that I've also found has been a really interesting thing. I don't know if you've ever done journals in the past. Quite often you might sort of read back, that's where I was 6 months ago. Of course you can, but that's not encouraged with the morning pages. It's really a fascinating kind of thing to be doing. And as I've worked through the book a couple of times now, I've just continued on that process, and it's just part of my morning ritual. I might get up sort of 10 or 15 minutes earlier every day to do it, and it's as I've worked through groups through the process, other creative artists, they've all found that same thing, that commitment, that turning up to your morning pages and going through that process, it actually communicates a whole lot of things to yourself. It tells you that you're being consistent. It shows you that you can commit to something. You're downloading anything that's stressful or difficult or painful. You're getting it out on that page and you're leaving it for the day there. So your day can go forward in a clear and kind of happy day. And that's super important. So that's your morning pages. Brilliant. And if you've got any questions, just type in the chat box and we can talk about that as we go. The artist dates. Now, this is something that's prescribed as a weekly activity. And it's encouraged that you do this alone. There's many possible options, of course, to take yourself on an artist date. It might be things like going to the art shop and buying some materials. It might be going to a gallery. It might be things like just sitting out in the backyard in the sun, quietly observing things, listening, just tuning into yourself. It could be a walk on the beach. It could be just a huge number of different activities. The point being that you're actually, again, communicating to your mind, communicating to your artist, your inner artist, that you matter, that you're putting a time aside to do some nurturing, that you're indicating that percolating time is super important when you're a creative person. It's not all about output, right? This is about input at this point. The input of time and priority, you're communicating to yourself that all this stuff is part of my creative process. Now, if you're a bit like me, I found that actually probably a hell of a lot more difficult than I did the morning pages. I mean, I'm a high achiever, right? I'm go, go, go. I'm create, make, grow. And so it's harder for me to slow down and make time for myself. And I remember one of the first artist dates I ever went on, I actually took myself out for lunch and a coffee in a really cool sort of cafe, and somewhere I'd never been before. And I remember just suddenly sort of having that feeling that there was a moment of, oh my God, how wasteful of me. I don't, I'm spending money on myself and I'm wasting time. And the guilt came up. And then I kind of noticed that and went, that's ridiculous. That's the very reason I'm here, to heal that, right? To strengthen my inner artist, to communicate to my inner artist that she matters, that I need to do some of that caring. And so all of a sudden it became incredibly important that that this was a time that I was prioritising for myself, and it really resonated true to me that was the stuff I had been neglecting, in fact. So it's tricky to, I suppose for some people it's tricky to prioritise that time without guilt. But this is what we're practicing, okay? If we keep doing the same old thing, guys, what do we get? The same old thing, right? So it's important that we're changing patterns in ourselves, that we're reconditioning ourselves, that we're growing, and that we're going to do things differently so that we can really continue to grow properly as creative people. So morning pages and artist dates are really two of the cornerstones, if you like, of this whole book. And as I said before, even if you don't go on to do anything else, you don't come on a course with me or work with me in any further way, that's absolutely fine. What I want you to do is consider actually just even doing those two things for yourself right now. There's loads of other absolutely cool, interesting and super helpful tasks in the book. And when we work through that in the course together, there's a live there's a live call that we do together, a weekly call, if you join the program, and we talk about those tasks each week to keep you accountable, but also so that you have this kind of really exclusive experience of sharing with each other and finding friendships and finding support in what you go through. People go through fairly big changes in this process. In the group that I'm running at the moment, 2 out of the 10 people have actually left their jobs. And that was pretty extraordinary for them. That's certainly not something they were thinking about doing. But I tell you what, this process is powerful. And I know that they're actually going to be far more fulfilled, happier artists because of those very brave decisions. And it's really come through a lot of this tasks that you do, the exercises, the support of the group. And that, I think, is also one thing that people have been talking about, that they may not have actually gone as deep and as far and as been committed if they hadn't had the accountability of the group and the live calls each week. So the group I'm talking about is the group that's moving through this process with me at the moment, and they're connecting in. We have an exclusive private Facebook group for those people going through the course. So they're sharing and connecting. We're all chatting through the week about what we're going through, and then we actually talk live every week together to see how everyone is going. So, I've created this to be something that takes you perhaps further beyond even just doing the book on your own. But of course, if that's where you're ready to start to do it on your own and that's what you want to do, by all means, go for it. Okay. So let's have a think about what it looks like when you are blocked as a creative. You are limited by your beliefs. So those might be things like, I'm not talented enough, my family's more important than my art time, I don't deserve this time, I'm not worthy enough. Is that resonating with anybody? If it is, just let me know, because I can tell you now the patterns that I see in so many artists, and there are close to 900 artists in our big Facebook group, which is called From the Easel, which, if you're a practicing artist of any sort of creative work, then you're more than welcome to come and join that large group. And there are patterns of limiting beliefs in creative people. There are patterns in all people, actually, about limited beliefs. But this stuff about not deserving or not being worthy enough really comes up over and over again with artists. And it will be having a huge impact. If that's any of those are your limiting beliefs, it will be having a huge impact in terms of what you're allowing yourself to do creatively. It's super important to clear that up. Now, the Artist's Way is one of the processes that we can do in a really concrete way as we follow through chapter by chapter and doing all the exercises. That's one way we can do. I try and augment that a little bit with some of my psychology understanding and some of the work that I've done with people, and in my one-on-one work with artists. I have a couple of processes that we can just smash through those limiting beliefs like you wouldn't believe. And in 2 or 3 sessions, we can clear that stuff right up. Linda said, yes, too old. Right, yes, absolutely. You know, one of your limiting beliefs might be, I'm just too old. I'm past it. I don't have time to make it. I don't know if you know a Sydney artist called Jenny Sages. She's been a finalist in the Archibald Prize a number of times. She's quite an extraordinary artist. She started when she was 55, and she's, right at the top at the moment. So I always think of someone like Jenny. So, of course, you're not too old, Linda, but if that's the limiting belief you hold in your mind, just think about how that's affecting your choices right now. And I think what it'll look like is that there are a lot of decisions you're making and holding yourself back from opportunities because of that limiting belief. But thanks, that's an excellent one. So, moving on. You might doubt yourself. You don't take action. You're often angry and resentful. You have money issues. You have guilt when you take time out to create. You may even end up experiencing things like depression and anxiety. Is this all related to your limiting beliefs and your blocked artist, your block creative? You bet it is. You bet it is. This is exactly the stuff that we want to deal with and treat and heal and solve, right? So that we can actually embrace moving forward. And, I don't know if any of that's resonating with you. Do you, in fact, doubt yourself? Have you ever noticed yourself getting really guilty? That's a really common one, I suppose I notice, particularly with female artists, because I guess biologically, women are really geared to doing the caring, right? The caring role and prioritising. We have to be, right? That's the way the human race survived. So we've got some particular wiring around that might be different to the men. That triggers that guilt when we take time away from that caring role of others, and it feels like we might be being selfish or self-indulgent when we take our time to create. So that sort of stuff needs a bit of a shake-up. I think you'd agree, because if we don't nurture and care for what we have as gifts in terms of our creativity, then we're never going to feel fulfilled in life. And if we're not feeling fulfilled, are we any good for anybody else? We're certainly strangling that possibility, aren't we? I think sometimes of the analogy of, when you're in an aeroplane and they give you that safety briefing and it's about the oxygen mask dropping down, how they always say to you, fix your own oxygen mask on first before you put it on the child or someone else next to you. It's kind of a bit like that. They do that, don't they? So that, you don't lose consciousness and you can help somebody else. Once you don't have an oxygen and you pass out, you're no good to anybody else. And I often think about that analogy when it comes to taking time out in your life to create. Depression and anxiety I have certainly seen in many people and in many creative people. So there's a whole lot to talk about around all of that stuff, well beyond what we're going to cover in the webinar today. But again, if you want to get in touch and have any support, help or information on that sort of stuff, you can get in touch with me about any of those things, and I would be more than happy to either point you in the right direction or help you out or line up some sessions or whatever you might feel you need to do next. Okie doke. So let's move on to something a bit more positive, what it looks like when it's right. You are free of your limiting beliefs. Yes, that is totally and utterly possible. You understand the consequences of living by these beliefs, that's the negative ones, and the very influence they have over every decision you have made. And that can be just life-changing when you connect up to the consequences in your life of having limiting beliefs, whatever they are, whether you're too old or whether you're not talented enough or whether you're not worthy enough, whatever your limiting beliefs are, they have impacted every decision, right? Your beliefs about yourself impact every decision, every choice you're making, from what's going into your mouth to who you spend time with, how you deal with your money. All of that stuff comes back to these beliefs we have about ourselves. So it's super important to sort this stuff out. And when you can get free of limiting beliefs and replace those with more empowering beliefs, wow, then we get change. Then we really get change. And I mean change not just in your creative life, but that's going to be change in your relationships, It's going to be changing your money. It's going to be changing your happiness level, your sense of fulfillment, your ability to contribute to the world, so many other areas. So this is big stuff now. This is big picture stuff. But because we're starting with our creative life, because that's who we are, that's given us a vehicle, if you like, to start dealing with this stuff. Okay, everybody following me? Any questions? Just type away in the chat box. If you don't wait for me to invite you, just type, because I can read all your questions while I'm going through this. So please hop in and ask anything. I can go over anything, or I'll do my best to answer any questions you have. Rightio. So continuing on about what it looks like when it's right. So you turn up, okay? You turn up to your studio. You turn up to your morning pages. You turn up to your artist dates every week. It's the thing about having rituals. Once you make it a ritual, you're committed, you've cleared those limiting beliefs, you start turning up and making, creating, addressing, solving, strengthening, right? All those things kind of start happening if you turn up. None of that's going to change if you're not turning up. I suppose I'm talking here about taking action, right? You're active and happily sharing. So, there's none of this kind of hiding away stuff in the studio where you can't be seen by other people. I mean, it's surprising, how many artists do that. It really is quite surprising. They're saying sort of on one hand, they want the fame and fortune and sales and exhibitions and profile, growing profile as an artist, but they're not very comfortable sharing any images about themselves. They don't put things on Instagram or Facebook. They feel really ashamed about their creative work, perhaps, or maybe they're just feeling shy and unconfident, or they don't know if they're any good. And so we have a conflict. I want this on one hand, but I believe this on the other hand. And so what's happening? Are they blocked or unblocked? They're pretty blocked, aren't they, at that point? So when this is all going right for you, you're really happy to share what's going on. You're really happy to share images. You're happy to share images of yourself, for that matter, or your studio, or what you're creating, or where you're going, or what you're experiencing, or what your process is, what your materials are. You're focused, you're productive, you're authentic, you have great energy and passion. And, when I read all of them, think about all those words, that to me that's sounding pretty happy, right? That's sounding pretty creative. That's sounding pretty connected and aligned with who you really are. And that sense of authenticity is just really freeing and fantastic. I'm not trying to make things for anybody else. I'm actually just letting myself have that self-expression in what I'm creating. And I'm really focused on it. Okay, Suzanne. Hi, sorry I was a bit late. Question about the morning pages. Sure, if you don't do them in the morning, you just do them later. What if you don't do them in the morning? Okay. Sometimes mornings are a bit chaotic in my house. Yes, okay, Susanna. Yes, I understand. Look, my personal experience is I haven't got as much out of it on the odd occasion where I didn't have time in the morning and I did them later. I just haven't had as much out of it. Now, I don't know whether it's to do with perhaps when you're sort of in that very early morning waking up sort of stage, you're still partly connected to your dream world or your unconscious. There's a sort of your analytical and critical mind hasn't quite kicked in. So you're actually more energetically open to just let yourself, give yourself permission to just write freely. Stream of consciousness, that's what that's all about. So look, I would suggest that if the mornings are a bit chaotic, you just make sure you're getting up 10 minutes earlier. Again, this is about turning up, right? This is about making the commitment. Look, of course, there's going to possibly be the odd day that doesn't happen. There's going to be the odd day you might miss something. I mean, this isn't about perfection, but it's certainly about turning up and commitment and it becoming part of your ritual. Marin asked, is there a reason it has to be 3 pages? I'm not sure. Actually, I don't know. That's certainly what the book suggests. What I can say about that is what I've noticed and what other artists that I've been working with have noticed is that there can be a tipping point as you're writing. And sometimes that can come at about a page and a half or the 2 page sort of point. And something can shift. You see, what you're doing is you're really trusting your inner wisdom in this process. You're not trying to kind of analyze and solve something in your rational brain. You're actually allowing just that kind of inner guidance to come through. So I'm not entirely sure, Merryn, of the theory around 3 pages, but what I can say, it seems to be just the right length which you can get past anything that's stumbling, kind of cognitively you're stumbling through, and tip into a space that just, if you keep going and you do go to 3 pages, you can actually find some resolution and wisdom there that you never even knew was there. So you're starting to train yourself to trust yourself in a sense. And that's a very good practice to have. So, okay, where were we? Yes, your artist is a child and she feels well cared for. So this is a beautiful notion from the book that Julia Cameron writes about your artist actually being a child. As I said earlier, it's about nurturing that. It's about caring for her or him. It's about feeding them and encouraging them and reminding them of how important and special and unique they are. If you think about how have you been treating your artistic inner child, I certainly know for me, I abused her like crazy for a long time. I actually didn't even want to be an artist. So I kept pushing it away, but I just kept finding myself back in art classes, and it actually felt pretty good to be in art classes. But then, no, I'm not an artist. I went and studied academic degrees. And okay, so maybe I'm a bit slower than other people, but eventually it became pretty obvious that life wasn't quite fulfilling, and I wasn't quite myself when I wasn't creating art. And so that was about recognising that inner child artist and saying, yeah, okay, you actually really matter. I need to listen to it. I need to make things. I need to respect that. I need to be authentic with who I really am. And so that's all about nurturing that. Okay, let's okay. So we talked about morning pages, weekly artist dates. One of the little exercises I'm going to recommend today is having a bit of a declutter. There's so many advantages to that, not just on the physical plane in terms of getting rid of some old stuff and making more space for yourself, but energetically, clearing out old art materials can be a very therapeutic thing. And maybe you want to find someone to give them to, which is always nice. But I don't know about you, but certainly from time to time, if I start looking in the storage areas of my studio, there are plenty of things that I actually haven't used for a long, long time, and I can pass on to somebody else. So we feel better when we do that in our space. I mean, I'll declutter other areas of my house as well, wardrobes and kitchen materials and all sorts of things that really uplifts my energy. So one of the things you might even want to just go away from today's webinar with is the task of doing a bit of a declutter. If you've got a studio, if you're lucky enough to have a studio space and it needs a bit of a clean up, and you want to start moving your energy about getting freer and more creative and unblocking, then that's a really fantastic practical thing that you can go and do today or this week sometime. And I highly recommend it. I think there's a lot for it that, as I said, not just physically, but energetically, emotionally, we feel different, don't we, when we walk into an organised space versus a messy space. And I'm naturally a very messy artist. When I'm creating, there's just bloody chaos going on everywhere. But if I keep on top of that and I do a declutter and I help myself by looking after my space, then that's giving myself all the right kind of messages in terms of valuing that inner artist and the creative process. So I hope that's making sense. And as I said, if you don't go forward with anything more with me, there you go. And even if you don't read the book, there's just 3 key things you can do right now. If you do read the book, and I really, really hope you do, I think I just highly recommend it for any creative person, then those are going to, at least those 2 first things are going to be a major part of what you engage in over the 12 weeks. So there's 12 chapters, 12 weeks, and there's a huge amount of juicy other exercises and tasks each week that you do. Apart from things like decluttering, there's some fantastic little written exercises on all sorts of topics that many of them I thought what's that got to do with my art? But actually, when I made myself sit down and do them, like things like, writing a letter to yourself, things like that, and thinking about some crazy ideas or dreams that you've had, stuff that I thought, oh, that's not really related to my art making. Surprisingly, have actually had a really big impact on things. So trust the process, as I always say to my artists, trust the process. There really is something about this process, and I'm sure once you get rolling, you will see what I'm talking about. Okay, so taking action's the key for the blocked artist. So I think often blocked artists are people that are procrastinating, putting off all of those sorts of things. And taking action really is about shifting the energy, changing what you're creating around yourself. It's the key, I think, probably to begin with in terms of improving your situation in every way. Not taking action, well, I guess that brings you the opposite, doesn't it? So you might want to think about some action steps that you can take this week. One of those might be the decluttering. One of those might be going on an artist date. Those sorts of action steps will be fundamental to you changing, to you growing, to you opening yourself up to more creativity, to starting to feel more secure about doing that. Taking action is really, really the key to get that going. And I'm sure any of you that have tried that at some point have a sense of what that can open up for you. So you might want to think about that again after today. What 3 action steps that you can take this week? Feel free to type them in the chat box, and we can share them with each other. So if there's anyone thinking, oh, what about if I did that? Type it in and we can talk about it. Okay. So if there are any questions, you can jump in now and ask me. Like I mentioned before, there is a Facebook group for just any practicing artist. So doesn't have to be fine art. There could be all sorts of other creative pursuits that you're involved in. And the Facebook group is called From the Easel. So perhaps we can get Dave to put a link there, if that's okay, Dave, From the Easel. And if you're interested in joining that community, it's bloody brilliant. I've just got to say, it's bloody brilliant. There are so many supportive people and people from all ends of the spectrum in terms of their creative career, emerging artists, established artists. So there's loads of experience and wisdom and great questions that go on there every day. So you can ask questions about practical issues, materials and stuff. You can find support when you're just sort of struggling a little bit. There's loads of stuff that goes on there all the time, and I'm so proud of that group. And as I mentioned, it's creeping up to about 900 members at the moment. So thanks, Dave. There's the link there. And feel free to come and apply to join that group, and we will process you in, and you can enjoy doing that. So, Linda, I sent a question re going away and taking. I sent a question about going away and taking the course. We have just bought a caravan. Okay. I'm thinking that you're saying, can you do both? Can you join the course and be travelling? As long as you've got an internet connection, that won't be a problem. Yeah. Okay. So absolutely. I mean, it would be brilliant because you'll have plenty of fun artist dates, I'm imagining, doing that. Half your luck, eh? Going away in the caravan, how fun. So absolutely, as long as you can get a reasonable internet connection so that you can join the live calls each week, and that's where everybody pops in and we have a talk through each chapter each week to keep you on track and accountable and give you the support that you're going to need to complete things, then you can absolutely do that from wherever you are. You just need a copy of the book and you need a good internet connection, and off we go. So there is actually going to be a meeting for the next round of the group. There's going to be an online meeting next Tuesday. Let us know if you want to be part of that. The email to get in touch with my team is team@felicityoconnor.com. So I'll get Dave to type that in again for me. So team@felicityoconnor.com, and you can message my lovely assistant Claire Barton in there, and she will help sort anything out, if you're thinking about joining the course, that would be brilliant. And I would love to have you. There is limited places, so there's a few spots left for the next round. It's the last time I'm going to offer the course at this current price because it's developing and I'm adding more value, I guess. And so early into the next year, there will be another round, but it will be more expensive. So I'm just letting you know about that. Okay. So it's 12 weeks together. It's just been life-changing and so exciting to see what's happening to the artists that have been part of it. If you go onto my website, www.felicityo'connor.com, if you go onto the Work With Me page, you will see some more details like each of the chapters of the book that we cover. You'll also see some testimonials there of some of the artists that have done the program or currently doing the program, so you can get a bit of a feel. I think we've got a couple of people that have done some really cool video testimonials there, so that's really so awesome of them to do that, and you can really get a good sense of what they've experienced. Get it from them, don't get it from me. That's the way to understand how it's affected them. So www.felicityo'connor.com and the Work With Me page, and you can have a little read about that. So it's an exclusive Facebook community where we talk and connect all through the week. Then there's live calls and you're reading through the chapters each week to yourself. Thanks, Dave. That's the link to my website there. We can get any of that. You can also buy the program there. There's a pay button and you can go through and make a payment and join us for the orientation call next Tuesday. So you don't need to have read anything by next Tuesday. It's just a welcome to call, and we get all the techie stuff sorted, and we make sure you've got your books and you're going to start reading, because then the week after that will be the first chapter that we're going to be discussing. So if you want to act on this now, that would be great, because we can process you and get you ready to join us next Tuesday. So it's live weekly calls, private Facebook members group, accountability group, awesome worksheets, and thanks to my team, loads of understanding and support, of course. All right, if that sounds like you, then please let us know, because we'd love to have you along. As I said, there's a couple of spots left. Now, there's the good news. This is the good bit, guys. The first three to sign up now, you pay $333 for the 12 weeks. So that's a saving. I should have calculated this. A saving of around about $60, $65. So the first three to sign up from this webinar are just going to be paying $110 per month. So again, any questions about that, team@felicityo'connor.com is the email to go through to my beautiful team members, and they will sort that out for you. So there's a special offer just for you today. Now, maybe if you're listening to this recording, that offer may, if you're not here live, you might miss out on that, but well done to the people that turned up live, because that special offer is there for you. So we'd love to have you. As I said, there is a limited number because the group, obviously, I don't want to get too big, and it needs to be a comfortable amount of people where everybody can share each week and we can all sort of get to know each other. So there is a few spots left in that, though, for the next round. So there you go. That's the offer for today. Okay. That's my last slide, actually. There we are. So if you do have any other questions now and you want to just quickly type in, please go for it right now. I'm here able to answer anything. Otherwise, you might want to think about joining From the Easel, the Facebook group. You might just want to take from today some of those practical tasks that we said you could start using straight away. You may just want to go and read the book for yourself. No problem at all. If you do need to get in touch, team@felicityo'connor.com. If you want to just have a little read about testimonials or other stuff, jump onto my website. And fantastic. It's been awesome. Thank you very much for attending. I really hope I get a chance to work with you and help you through whatever your process is and grow your creative life. One more thing just to mention, that I actually have a podcast as well. And the podcast is called This Creative Life, which is what my program, the 12-week program, I also call. So This Creative Life, if you're interested and you love podcasts like I do, it's just a new podcast. So there's only a few interviews up, but there's more coming. And basically I'm just chatting to creative people in creative businesses. So it could be anything from practicing artists, musicians, curators of galleries. Um, Actually, this morning I interviewed someone who's an accountant. What's that got to do with art? Well, you would be surprised, actually. Very useful information about how to manage our kind of business end of things. So that one should be coming out next week. So This Creative Life, jump on there if you're interested in podcasts. I think you'll enjoy that. Thanks yet again for coming along, everybody. No more questions coming into the chat box, so I'm going to assume that we're done for this morning or this afternoon. And I do look forward to the opportunity to work with you and wish you all the very best in your creative life. Thank you very much. Bye for now.